Life doesn't always offer you second chances, honey. When Daniel and I went to Japan last year, I had not thought about bringing any of your ashes with. And I kind of regret that. But this is the first city that we're visiting on this trip that we visited last time around. And probably a good thing too, because we had a really good experience here. In spite of the fact that our shore excursion was canceled, we just knocked about the city and had fun doing it. Today doesn't feel like quite that much fun because, as you can see, it's gray, cloudy, and if I stick my head out a little further, or maybe my hand, yep, sure enough, it's still raining out there. It's not the best of weather. I'm not in any great hurry to get off, but we're required for immigration purposes to do a face-to-face with immigration down there on the docks. So I can't stay here much longer, but I figured I'd just fill you in on the situation. If I get out there, if I find myself a shuttle, I'll show you about the town a little bit, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah, this is decidedly unpleasant and chilly and all that sort of thing. I'm starting to miss the overwhelming heat of Moroea or something like that. Boy, this is the first time the rain has been, real thorough since Auckland. And even then, when we were getting off the ship, it wasn't such a big deal. Right now, we're actually getting kind of soaked. All right, this must be it. I probably won't be able to film inside, but at least we've found where we need to go. Otherwise, I felt like I was getting lost trying to find my way.
It's always fun to see mascots at a terminal. I don't remember if we saw any last time we were here. It's the sort of thing that Daniel would have enjoyed seeing.
I think I'm in luck. We've got a free shuttle bus as long as we're willing to cross the lake that is between us and it. Gonna have to be really gentle about this. No splashing. Oh boy. I've just christened these shoes. Baptized them. I'm going to be wringing these socks out, but at least we're on board. You remember how fancy these buses were last year, son? This one reminds me of Spencer Gifts. The thing about travel is that you never know where you are until you're there, and even then you're not quite sure, or how you to get back. It turns out this is, in fact, a stop to get to the cruise terminal, and that's fine. But where are we? At least the puddles aren't quite as deep here, although there are some rivers here. Some of this looks vaguely familiar, and most of it not quite so much. It looks... I see a spot over here across the street that looks like it leads into a shopping arcade of one sort or another. There are also these that take us downstairs into the metro stations, so there's that too. I don't know. This doesn't look quite like where we were last year, but maybe it's not that far removed. I'm just gonna head downstairs, get out of the rain, and check things out. That's really all you can do. But I probably should take note of where I am. We're by the Opera Prima, wedding facility? Of course, it's that whole married a Christian type of thing. Yeah, so let's just wander downstairs and see what happens.
To be honest, it doesn't look like we've gone that far. We're basically at the top of the circle around the orange line down in the south.
whereas we come from right at the base of that circle. And at least now I have a rough idea where I am and where I need to get back to in order to hop a bus back before we take off.
I've also learned that one of the reasons why the guide, director, I don't know what you'd call her, of the shuttle bus was so reluctant to let us on was because that was a bus being chartered by the other cruise ship that was in the harbor at the same time as we are. So, but she took pity on us and let us ride with her. And so here I am, we are, and in order to get out of the rain, and I suppose I could just take this cap off at this point. Yeah, probably look better with the cap on now. We have one of the underground shopping arcades that you and I were walking through last year at this time, Daniel. This is sort of more what we were looking to see at some point. Anyway, you'll recall our observation was that some of this underground nature is due to the fact that, well, like with Taiwan, you have belligerents nearby and you have to prepare for emergencies in case things get hot. You have a whole underground ecosystem, so to speak, for people to escape to if necessary. And as long as it's here, it might as well be used for commerce and everything else. Yes, I do think we are starting to emerge into something very familiar. Whether it's the same one that we wandered through last year, I don't know, but here we are. I'll let you know if I see anything familiar, specifically, if my memory serves me well enough. But until then, I'm just wandering. I'm starting to think that we're not anywhere near where we were last year. These things, the buildings do look familiar in a way that is just like, it looks like Busan. But I don't think it is the same area. If for nothing else, I'm not seeing those semicircular coverings here or the escalators that lead down here. I think this is a separate station, and that's fine. Always nice to see new places. I am curious about the Koreatown. Would it even be called that behind me? But for the moment, I still want to keep out of the rain, so I'm not in any great hurry. Yeah, I definitely am in a different spot than I was last year. And that's fine. To be honest, I have a sneaking suspicion that no matter when and where I go to these places, I'm always finding myself in a different part of it. And as a result, I could come here year after year for many years and still only be feeling the tail or the trunk or, the leg of an elephant and never quite getting the whole elephant. We're at, I guess, the Busan station, which is basically the hub of everything here. At least I assume so. It's still raining, so I really would rather not be outside. So I think I'm just gonna head back in and wander around inside before trying to find my way back to where the cruise ship pickup is. I think there's a lot to cover just in here. And if not, and if the rain lets up, I'll be able to go elsewhere, this way and that, and see a little bit more of the elephant. See, this is where I came up from just a few moments ago in order to get out here. But there's also quite a bit at this station to wander through as well. So I think I'll be busy enough for a little while yet. Yes, this is more of what I think of when I think of the train stations or the metro stations, either one, here in Asia. Didn't see a lot of the shops like this in Taipei, but definitely have a lot of it here in Busan. Just like I expect to see it in places throughout Japan and the like. Not that I'm necessarily stopping in them unless something catches my eye, and if I'm busy talking to you here, I'm not sure how much of that's going to happen. Still, just have to wander around and see it all. To be fair, there weren't quite as many shops in there as I thought there would be, but it stands to reason that most of the building would be dedicated to the train lines and so forth. So, and since I'm not getting on one of those because I wouldn't know where I'd want to go in the first place, yeah, not bothering with that. Anyway, I'm gonna try and get back to the bus stop to just reorient myself. Can I get away with saying reorient myself around here, or is that offensive? Anyway, it's not as if the rain has exactly stopped. It seems to have settled down, but that may just be my perception. I'm still never going to get used to those motorcycles on the sidewalk, but here we are. I didn't hear it until it was right on top of me. Oh well. I'm going to try and get across the street and go down that Chinatown passageway. Again, it's all just for the experience because haven't been here before after all. And when am I going to get to again? There's so much here I haven't seen, despite the fact that, yeah, I've been here before, but, you know, the little amount of ground that we covered then is not the same as the area I'm walking around in now. I might as well be in a different town entirely. I'm definitely getting the hang of these cash points, I think. Gathered about 100,000 won, which isn't even $100, but it's not like I expect to spend a whole lot over the next 3 days. It's just I might come to a street vendor or something like that that'll require cash, and so there you go. At least I'll be prepared. I'm just going to take a video of this while I'm here because it at least gives me a reference to where I am specifically and some of the places that apparently Busan's Tourism Commission would like me to go. What they call geoparks. Yeah. And I don't know if I can travel that far. That looks like we're talking tens of kilometers. And in this rain, not exactly the most fun in the world. But there's something to be said for making a bit of a hike of it. Anyway, we are in one of what I'd assume to be many Chinatowns in here. And I'm going to take a look around. So far, only half of everything is open. I mean, they're not going to get a lot of foot traffic on a day like today, I'm afraid. So I'm imagining that they're keeping that to a minimum. I have to show you this. Unfortunately, the plaque at the bottom doesn't give me any idea of who he is because I can't read it. And as it so happens, he's not alone on this corner. There's quite a bit of statuary here, in fact. And you don't have to go far to get from one to another. Or maybe they're just guarding the gate here. Admittedly, it's not as if I have a choice to be out in this weather. But I will say, being willing to do this leaves the city and the streets almost all to myself. It's nice for an agoraphobe, which, to be fair, I don't think I am, but some of the crazy crowds have really been something else, a little bit too much. This isn't half bad. One gets used to the concept of a Chinatown, but there's something peculiar about being in a foreign country that has an America town, or in this case, Texas town. Have to see what this is like. Our guide in Hong Kong joked about the fact that Stanley Market was supposedly Caucasian town, and this apparently is their attempt at that same sort of thing here. Well, they certainly got things covered, don't they? Manila Club, Club Bali, Havana Karaoke. They've got stuff in Cyrillic as well as Latin characters. It's quite the mix. And to claim that it all has anything to do with Texas is a little bit weird, but whatever. The problem is you can't see what I see here. It is a bit of a melange, isn't it? You've got the Hawaii Club, the London Bar, all sorts of different things. And I understand, all we Caucasians look alike, so I guess it stands to reason. Oh boy, I can certainly smell something tasty. Not that I'm terribly hungry just yet. Those from Miami should be pleased with the results of this one. This is the largest such bar I've come across so far. And it's yours. Complete with a Dolphins logo and everything, although it's really worn pretty thin. Meanwhile, we've got Boston here. Like they're trying to cover all the bases. I finally got sick of wandering around in the wet and decided to go downstairs and see where it went. And I'm right back in the same Busan Station underground mall. Turns out, however, it is, among other things, a reasonably good way to cross the street without bothering with the traffic. Wish I'd have known that earlier. Bother. I've already been up on this side. I better just go back down here and come up on the other and see what happens. Yep, much better. I've got that extra covered. And I found my way over to these little guys. Little? Oh. Yeah, I probably shouldn't call them that. They might take offense. Anyway, where am I going? I'm not going to be able to answer that question. Really, there seems to be no end of these little uphill, and yeah, they do seem to be all uphill shopping arcades. This one starts to seem a little familiar, but at the same time, considering where we've been today compared to where I was last year, I don't think so. And just when I think that the straightaway is everything, it turns out I could go around this corner or this one and find myself dealing with all sorts of other things. And undercover, for that matter. stay out of the rain a little bit. I can live with this. It's still weird to see these enormous numbers in terms of prices, but when it's like 1,350 won to the dollar, everything is going to be just huge. You kind of blanch a little bit at a price of 10,000 won, and then you realize it's well under 10 bucks. Whew. There's that smell of fish. Daniel, you would not like it around here. Dumplings back behind me here. Lots of fresh produce, none of which I could buy and bring back on the ship because agricultural regulation. But here's the live seafood. Yeah. That explains what I was smelling earlier. Oh my gosh, and there's still more alleys to go down. Not that there's anything there, but that it is there is enough to blow me away. The problem with not knowing where you're going is that you often end up in places where you don't intend, which sounds like gobbledygook now that I've said it, but it's true. I seem to have wandered down a street that's mostly hotels and motels, and I'm not sure what kind they are. They're certainly fairly small ones. They have the little onsen marks in front of them in some cases. Be interesting to know what I'm actually looking at. But the fact of the matter is I'm kind of stuck here without much context and without much English, as the Koreans aren't quite as big into English as the Japanese are. So there's a lot of stuff out here in Korean, which, I mean, is where we are, but I don't have anything written down to explain for somebody like me who can't read Hangul what it is I'm looking at. I seem, however, to have wound up right outside Texas Street again, so at least I haven't gotten myself too terribly lost. That's a plus. And at this point, now that I've got 100,000 won burning a hole in my pocket, I feel like I should use some of it, but I'm not sure on what. I know I've got an ample amount of time, so there's no problem in moving further and further away from the stations. The problem is between the hills, and yeah, you're going up quite the incline. It's a good thing I've been working out at a 15-degree incline every day in the gym when we're out at sea. Now that I'm coming down, though, and the ground is wet from the rain, I feel like I'm going to slip and fall if I'm not careful. And talking to you on the camera is definitely not being careful. Still, after a while, it does sort of flatten out a little bit. It really is hilly here, though. It's another thing to try and get used to. That it's not unique to Busan, of course. We've had this going on in a lot of other places as well. But here, there's some spots where it's like 25, 30 degrees incline, going up and now coming back. And it's mildly intimidating. Still haven't found anything to really engage with, though, I'll have to say that much. Just sort of taking in the sights, such as they are. And it's still quiet. There's a little crowded during the noon hour as people headed off to lunch, but at the moment, at least around here, not so much, which is wild considering we're probably only a few blocks away from the Busan station where I was dropped off. It's just that getting to it is a bit labyrinthine. There are moments when I could swear that I'm somewhere familiar. The Korean Air building behind me makes me think that I've been here before, but I'm still not entirely sure. It's this strange feeling. It's not deja vu at all. It's not deja vu exactly, but a sort of sensation like this could be where we were dropped off last year. I mean, that could be the 7-Eleven where the guy taught me how to use a foreign ATM, but I'm not entirely sure. Things look familiar and yet not familiar, and I don't know how else to explain that. Okay, well, I was pursuing this particular building thinking that that square up there was familiar, and when I got here I found out it is a fire station. It's nothing I've seen before. So yeah, I've been pursuing something that really isn't here. I think that R.O.K mall in the background, way off in the distance, might be the end of the street that we were dropped off in. But, you know, the further I go down this rabbit hole without any success, the less I'm really willing to pursue it. It doesn't seem like it's absolutely necessary anyway, especially considering that after drying out for a moment, it seems to be starting with the rain again. So, yeah, no, not worth the while. I've been chasing after this white rabbit a little too long already. Time to double back a little bit. Besides, why walk all the way to the end of the street for a R.O.K mart when there's one right here? And it's within view of where we are supposed to be picking up the buses, hopefully. Maybe I'll check it out. Yeah, never mind. Turns out it's mostly appliances. So, anyway, there is a shelter and presumably a means to cross the street here. So I'm just going to take advantage of that. See if there's anything else down here as well. No, it looks like it's just a cross street. Well, it's better than having to wait for the light or something like that. I guess they can't all be underground markets. Okay, so at least I've got a handle on when the bus is going to be there. I'm thinking, you know, at either 4 o'clock or 4:40, I can hop it back and be all set. But since it's only a little after 2 o'clock, and the one that's right there right now is from Seabourn, which is the other cruise line, I really don't belong on that particular ship. So, I'm gonna stick with this for the time being, and then just head downstairs in order to cross the street and wander around a little bit more. As long as I know how and when to get back, that gives me a lot of freedom in terms of what to do in the meantime, even if I don't know what to do with myself necessarily. As loath as I am to give up so soon, I'm getting tired of fighting the weather. It is not clearing up, and in fact, the rain has picked up. So, it's about 3 o'clock, and presumably when the bus arrives at 3:20, I'm going to make my way for it. I might get myself some dessert beforehand simply because I've got to burn through some of this cash, but other than that, I can't think of any reason to stick around much longer. So, yeah.